Okay. All right. So what are we learning today? I think in the last session, we missed out the relations between entities. So that's one thing we'll look at today. And then we'll basically work with something called MySQL Workbench. So I hope you guys have MySQL Workbench installed. If you don't have, I'll share some YouTube videos. Actually, I'll share it right now itself. Most of your Windows machines, so yep, check this out.
What is Bittrex 24? Free task management, free time tracking, free quotes and invoices. Bittrex 24, the #1 free project management platform. Register your free account today.
Good grammar and spelling are important, but if you want to write essays that inspire, messages that forge brighter connections, and emails that get the job done, you need to think about more than just grammar and spelling.
There's one more thing, dbeaver. This is like a replacement of MySQL, and it's very easy to use. So you can probably check one of these. Okay. Let me edit this one only. Okay, give me 1 second. Huh? I'm not sure why this thing dropped. Can you guys see my screen now? One of you can answer. Okay, okay. So basically, we'll work with this and we'll see insertion, update, creating table, basically all that stuff. Okay. Cool. Let's understand the relations between entities, the different types of relations. You guys probably have already seen, so this will just be a go through of this. So one is one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-one, okay, and many-to-many. Okay, this is what we'll understand first. I'm not going to draw anything. I'll just I'll take an example from the web and then explain. Okay, this will just be a walkthrough. So basically there are these relationships, one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-one, and many to many. Okay. And for each of these, Spring has some sort of annotation, but we'll get to the Spring part later. Okay. So how does it work? For example, in this example, we see that a person has a passport. So this relationship is actually defined by has, and because a person can have only one passport, it is a one-to-one mapping. Okay. Why is it one?
Sir, your voice is too low, sir.
Voice is too low.
Yeah,
Now,
sir, your voice is low due to background noise.
okay. Is there too much of background noise now?
No background noise now. Sound is low.
Sound is good, right? Okay. Okay. So basically, there is this one-to-one relationship where a person can only have one passport. A person can only have one Aadhaar. So these relationships are one-to-one because one person can have only one passport, and one passport number can be mapped to only one person. Okay, so it's a one-to-one. Another example would be, let's say, in an office environment, you have one employee belonging to exactly one department. You cannot work in both marketing and engineering department. You have to belong to one department. So it's a one-to-one relationship. Okay. No, sorry, my bad. That's not a one-to-one relationship. Yeah, I mean, I think this is the best example. Person and passport. One person can belong to only one passport, and one passport can belong to only one person. Okay. What is one-to-many and many-to-one relationship? So here a customer can have multiple accounts. Okay. You can go to a bank and you can open up multiple accounts. Each of those accounts will belong to exactly one customer. Okay. So that's a 1-to-n relationship. If you look from the customer side, it's a 1-to-n relationship. If you look from, sorry, my bad. If you look at from the customer's point of view, yeah, this is 1-to-n relationship. And if you look at it from the accounts point of view, it's a n-to-1 relationship. So n number of accounts can actually be mapped to one customer. That's 1-to-1 and I mean 1-to-many and many-to-one relationship. And many-to-many relationship is this: a customer can buy multiple products. A product can be purchased by multiple customers. So it's a n on n or many-to-many relationship. Okay. MySQL typically RDBMS has these sorts of things. If like, I'll just explain this thing once again. There's nothing. I'm hoping that everyone here knows the basics of MySQL. Okay, so this is a teacher. This is a student. Okay. This is a subject. This is a course. University seat number. Okay. So relationships. This guy and this guy shall have only one relation. Okay, never mind. What is the, let's just do it this way. This is a one-to-one relationship. Okay. Should we take the, let's take our insurance example. Okay. In insurance, we have different types of products. A customer can subscribe to any of the products. Customer can have a subscription. Customer can have multiple subscriptions, but one subscription maps to only one customer. And a product can have multiple subscriptions. So this is how it looks. Okay. Customer. Subscription. Okay. And I think we also had something called policy. Okay. So one insurance can have exactly one policy dictating all the things, right? One second. Okay, so one insurance can have exactly one policy, and a policy can basically map to multiple insurance. Okay, so what is this kind of relationship? It's called a, this is called a one, maybe I'll just write it down here. Sorry, this is here one, and one-to-n relationship. Okay, then customer subscription. Okay, one customer can have multiple subscription, but one subscription can map to exactly one. Okay, so you can have this two is one customer can have multiple n, but one subscription can see only one customer. So one. Okay, sorry. Okay, what about nominees? Customer can have only one nominee, and one nominee can belong to only one customer. So nominees, just nominee. So if you look at the customer from nominee's point of view, one nominee belongs to, is owned by exactly one customer. So this will be like a nominee can see only one customer, a customer can see only one nominee. In our example, usually a customer in any policy can have multiple nominees, but it's not n number. Okay, because in any, so what I'm trying to say here is you can have an insurance where you and your dependents are basically, you have a max upper limit on the dependents. Like a customer can have 4 dependents on them. Even in that case, it's not 1 to 4. It is basically 1. Like if you look at the nominees, it's actually 1. And if you look at the nominees from the customer's point, this is also 1, because at most you can have 4 number of nominees and not n. N is mostly used for like an unfixed number of things, right? Like a customer can have multiple accounts. There's no upper cap on this thing. But the moment you have an upper cap, that's considered to be a one relationship. Okay. So that's it. That's a one-to-one relationship. And this is one subscription can belong to only exactly one product. Okay. So if you take a look at this thing, when you look at subscription from insurance point of view, you can see many subscriptions linking to the same product. So insurance can see n number of subscriptions, but once again, n number of subscriptions, and a subscription can only see one insurance. Okay. In our example, most of these are n to 1, 1 to n, or 1 to 1, and not, we don't have, in our working example, we don't have a n to n relationship. But as you can see here, if you open an e-commerce website, you can have multiple customers buying multiple products. Actually, if you look at this, if you just look at these, the customer and insurance, a customer can have multiple insurance. How do I explain this? Okay. So a customer can have multiple insurance, and like if an insurance can be taken up by multiple customers. So in this case, this is a n-to-1 relationship. This is an end-to-one relationship. Okay. Yep. So that's basically the relationships. Any questions on this? Like this should be fairly simple for most people. If you have any questions or any confusion, let me know. Cool. So that completes the my DBMS concepts. Okay. I'll get rid of this. Let's jump into connecting a database to your through your MySQL or DBWare. Okay. I'll show both of these. All right. So let me see. I think I already have MySQL installed. Okay. This was from the previous project, I think. One second. Performance DUROSys MySQL. Okay, there's nothing of this sort. We close this. This I'll have to delete because there is nothing to connection. Cool. All right. And let me also open DBWare. So basically, MySQL and DBWare are two free IDEs. It's not exactly IDE, but it's like SQL dashboard sort of thing, like how MySQL Workbench is. You have DBWare. Okay, I think in DBWare you can connect to NoSQL databases as well. I mean, my bad. So the reason why we use DBWare is because you can actually connect to multiple types of database. Like MySQL is one type of DBMS database, right? There's Postgres, and then there are a ton of other things, Apache Druid. These are the databases which basically are of SQL type. Okay, so the reason why I prefer DBWare is because if I am working in a company where they have multiple databases for multiple things, multiple types of SQL databases, DBWare would allow me to connect to all those things, whereas MySQL would only allow me to connect to MySQL database. Okay. Cool. So let's see how we can connect to a particular database. So before I do this thing, I need to have the database in there. So let's create a insurance database, okay, or Geekster Insurance. I am logged in here as this thing. So the command to create a database is create database. Okay. Should I do it like this or should I save it somewhere? Okay, we'll see. Create database Geekster Insurance. Okay. And then show you see Geekster Insurance. Okay. Drop database Geekster Insurance. Okay. Don't worry about anything at this moment. Cool. Show databases. Cool. Okay, that's done. Let's see how we connect. Mac. You will always get this interface, which will have this plus button here. Hey, can you guys hear me? Folks?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay.
But sir, बीच में थोड़ी रुक जाती है आवाज.
Basically, something is wrong with my internet connection. I'm supposed to get way more than this, but okay, fine. Okay, cool. Like this. First, I give the database name. Okay, so for me, it will be Geekster Insurance. Okay, then I basically specify whether it's running on my local host or some other place. Because this database is actually in my local host, I would say local. Okay. If it was running, let's say on Amazon's, like it was running on AWS, I would say AWS, or something like this. If it was running on Heroku, I would say Heroku. Okay. This is just a naming convention that I follow. You can do whatever you want, but this is basically a name to uniquely identify your connection. Okay. So I'll say Geekster Insurance local. All right. Now here you have the host name and port name. If I was connected to, let's say local, this is the IP that would be there, which is 127.0.1. This is by default the machine's IP. Okay. You can also write it like local host. Okay. MySQL by default runs on 3306. Unless there is a configuration change in the MySQL, it will most certainly be running on 3306 only. So you don't have to worry about it. But if you work in a company where they run on a different port for security reasons, you have to basically mention that port here. Okay. That's there. And I think I can tell you guys where to basically see my dot. Okay, never mind. One second. Yep. Okay. So basically, there is a configuration file here. If you are on Windows system, it will most probably be under program. But basically, this is the file you're looking for if you need to change anything in the MySQL configuration. Okay. MySQL. Let me just do this. Okay. This is where you actually have your MySQL conf if you're using the latest version. Okay. If you see here, they're actually including, they're picking all the configurations from this conf.d and conf.d. This is what will be there. This part might be OS specific, like because I'm on Linux machine, this is where it will reside. If you are on Windows, then this folder structure may be different. It might be under C programming and all those things. But this is where these are the two folders or directories under which you will be able to find your MySQL configurations. Okay. A lot of the times these, I'll just show you an example. What is wrong with me today? Okay, so you have mysql.conf and mysql dump.conf. Mysql dump.conf is basically which takes a dump of your data before you try migrating. Don't worry about that. This is your MySQL conf. Maybe I can show you this. Okay. Here you don't have much. It's just the MySQL part that they mentioned. There's not much here, but if you want your custom configurations, you would basically put it here. Put them under this MySQL conf. Okay. And then the other directory is MySQL conf, mysql.conf.d. So let me come out of here. This is for the MySQL dconf. Okay. So Sublime. Okay. This is basically, if you install MySQL will by default run, right? Those things are actually defined right here. So if you want to, MySQL D stands for MySQL daemon. And in programming, in software engineering, there's a concept of daemon thread. There's a main thread, and then there's the daemon thread. Main thread is the one that we see. Daemon thread is the one that works behind the scene. As in that's more like a background thread which is running. You don't see it upfront, doesn't have a UI or something. So MySQL primarily runs on this daemon thread. Okay. Why am I telling you all these things because when you start working on your own project or maybe a project for a company, you will most certainly be configuring a few things here and there for MySQL. This is where you will find all your stuff. Like for example, this is where you will find the MySQL logs, and this is where your MySQL binaries will be sitting. Okay. Cool. That's a little bit about the meta of MySQL. Now let's move on to using it. Okay. So localhost 3306. If this was not localhost, it would be something like AWS dot, I don't know, sg dot something something dot com. This would be your host, and port would be 3306 if you were if you're talking to a database running on AWS. Okay. Cool. So for now, I'll keep it as localhost. Then the username is supposed to be root. I have, so the root username is something which is usually discouraged for using. So I have created my own dev account here. So I'll give my this thing as dev, and you can type your password here. I think, and then you can click on this test connection. If you see this thing successfully made MySQL connection, you know that it was able to basically make the contact. You can see here, host is localhost, port is this, username is this, SSL enabled with TSL SSL. You can read up about the SSL part later, but this basically means that the SSL is configured for this. It's a secured socket connection that through which you're talking to MySQL. Okay, that's it. I'll come to the default part later. For now, I have tested my connection, it worked. So I'll go ahead and click on OK. It will create this for me. I'll do the same thing on dbeaver. Okay. So here in dbeaver, if you open, you have this database navigator part. Here you have this icon. Okay. New database connection. You can either do this, or you can find it here as well. Or you can go to file and you can just say new. Okay. Whichever you like, but I would click on this. Okay. As you can see here, you have these DBs that are supported: MySQL, DB2, DuckDB, MariaDB, Oracle, PostgreSQL Server SQLite. Okay, which is why we prefer using dbeaver, because it has a support for larger databases, whereas this one is just MySQL specific. Okay, cool. So I'll say MySQL. So by default, the one is MySQL. So when I click on this thing, okay, it basically tells me this thing. If you look at this, it also supports NoSQL. Oh no, this doesn't support NoSQL. This is the SQL support that they have. Okay, MySQL, ADMS, all of these things. We'll just connect with the MySQL. So I'll select MySQL, go to next. Here also the same thing. Server host by default is localhost. If you are connecting to some other thing, specify the URL here. Port by default is 3306. Database, I'll leave this part blank as of now. Username is root, which I'll change to dev, and then password would be okay. Done. And then you have these things you can leave as blank, and you can just say finish. Okay. Once this is done, you can try connecting here. Okay. So how do you know if you connected or not? You can see the green tick here. Okay. You can see the green tick here. Or you can just right click on this and the SQL editor will open up. Here you say open SQL script. Okay. This will open the SQL script. To know if you're connected or not, just execute any command like show databases. Okay. There is this this here that I can run. It shows me all the databases, which means I'm connected. Okay. Now I haven't defined a name here, like how I defined a name here. So to do that, what I have to do is I'll have to go onto this connection, right click on it, and there is this thing called rename. Okay. In this rename, I'll just say Geekster Insurance Local. Okay. Done. Yep, that's it. Now, you saw some information here, right? Like if I go to my edit connection here, you saw that I left the database part blank. Similarly, here when I go to edit connection, I left the default schema part. I left this default schema part as blank. Okay. So what are these things? These fields are basically telling you, these fields are where you can specify which particular database you want to connect to. If you don't specify a value here, the by default selected database would be the MySQL database. Okay. Which is already there, the configuration part database. Okay. But you don't want to do this thing. Let's say you're working on the insurance project and you have a database called Geekster Insurance, you would connect to that. So what I'll do here is I'll go here. Okay. I'll open a SQL script. I'll say create database. I'll also, okay, so there are two ways of doing this thing. Create database, Geekster Insurance. Okay. Nope. Insurance. Okay. And to confirm whether it got created or not, I'll say show databases. You can either run this. This will execute run by one, or you could do this. Okay. Execute SQL script. It will basically execute everything. So the first one was just to create the database, and the second one was to show the database. You have this thing. Okay. Similarly here, I can just open this and I can say create database Geekster Insurance. Okay. Now, when you run this thing, you will inevitably get an error. You get this query interrupted. Okay. You scroll this up and it says cannot create database Geekster Insurance database exists, which means I have already created the database here. So I'm trying to recreate this database. That's why this thing failed. Okay. To make sure that this does not fail, okay, there is an additional statement that you can put saying if not exists. Okay. What happened here was because in the absence of this particular command, the creation command failed, which means it did not execute whatever part was there after this thing. Okay. So to avoid that, what we do is we add this line if not exists. What this will do is if the database already exists, it won't create it. Okay. You can see here the next scenario, it says create database if not exists. This is more of a warning. This sign here means it could not execute, it failed. This is of a warning here. This is basically show database. This part executed properly. Okay. So there are two types of thing. Create Geekster database. This is one. And then there is create okay. You can see the show table got executed. I'll comment this one, and this is basically for seeing the database. Okay, this is how you comment. I'll save this script, but probably in some separate place. Let me see. Okay, this is where I'll keep most of my queries saved. Let me actually go ahead and do this. Is this where it is? Never mind. I'll check this thing later. Okay, cool. So as I said, I will not be using MySQL here. Okay, because I'm more comfortable using this thing here, the dbeaver. So I'll be switching to dbeaver, but there's no problem here because this and this, they're the same thing. You just write SQL script on this thing. Okay, on this editor. Cool. Let me close my SQL. Okay, so the command to create a table. Okay, So what are the entities we have in our Geekster insurance? This actually created the
Benefit.
select database. This select database command basically gives you a null because you have not selected any database. So what you can do here is you can say use and then give your database name Geekster insurance. Okay. And the reason why it happened here is, okay, you have a SQL error, check the syntax. So which database you're using, this is the command, okay? And if you want to,
Hello.
yes, Abhishek.
Hello.
Yes, Abhishek.
Sorry, you are there because सर थोड़ी देर में आप freeze हो रहा है voice में.
Voice break कर रहा है?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes sir, बीच में
Okay.
freeze हो रहा है. Screen freeze हो रहा है sir.
Give me a second, okay? Guys, stay here. I'll reconnect. Sorry guys, it took some time. Just let me know if you guys can hear me properly. One of you? Can you hear me properly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And let me share my screen and tell me if the screen freezes or something. Okay. I don't know. There's something wrong with my internet connection today. Anyways, okay. So I'll basically show you how you can create a table and everything. And then we'll call a 5 minutes, 10 minutes break, and then we'll learn the rest after this. Okay. So if you want to know which database you are currently connected to, you execute this command called select database. And if you want to, you can, so this is basically a SQL script, right? You can have multiple commands here. If you want a specific command or a specific set of commands to execute, you just select them like this, and then you click on this execute part. Okay. So if you check this right now, it says Geekster Insurance is the selected database because I have already executed this command, use Geekster. Okay. Let me close this. Don't save. Let me close this. Let me actually close this connection once again. This is how you close connection, disconnect. Okay. And then again, connect. Okay. Then you go to SQL, open SQL script. I'll open this one. Let me see which database I'm connected to. If you run this, you can see now it's null. Why is it null? Because I have not specified any particular database to which I have to connect. Okay. So what will happen is every time, if you use this current configuration, every time you connect to the database, it will connect you to the data store, but it won't connect you to a specific database. Okay. So what you want to do is, because you want to work only with Geekster Insurance database, what you want to do here is you need to see which database it is. So I'll execute this command, show data. Achha, I already have this command here. So I'll uncomment this, select this, run this. Okay. Geekster Insurance is my database name. Copy this. Come here in this edit connection setting. And you see here, you have this database part. In this, just paste it. Geekster Insurance. Okay. Yes. Okay. Do you want to save these changes? Yes. Okay. Close this. Disconnect this. Reconnect again. Okay. Open your SQL script, the same one that exists, and then execute the same command again. Okay. You can see, sorry, not the same command. So, hold on. Execute this command. Select database. If you execute this command here, it shows Geekster Insurance. So this is how you can set a default database connection here. Okay. It is for this thing. And if you want to use MySQL, I'll tell you the exact same thing for MySQL. You can go to your edit connection here, and you can, in the default schema, you can just paste this thing, Geekster Insurance. Okay. Test connection. You can see that it has successfully connected to this. Close it, open it, run the same command here. Select database. This is the icon that you would be using for this. It would show select database. The output is actually given here. Okay, Geekster Insurance. So this is how you do it in both this and this. Okay, I'll comment this out and I'll add a comment here. So the comment here starts with double this thing. Okay. Okay. All right. So this is for selecting a database. Okay. If you want to use a particular database, you would say use insurance. Okay. Okay. So how do you create a table? Very simple. You first figure out the schema and then you go ahead and create it. Okay, so let's go ahead and create this insurance thing that we decided. So let me open up my IntelliJ. We'll look at our models first, okay? Because models are what basically decides what we have to do. So there is something called insurance policy, which has an ID, and then it has items covered, then it has sum insured, and then it has type, okay, insurance type. In insurance type, you have mobile vehicle life. So this is an enum. Let's see how we do it in this thing, okay? So we'll write this. Actually, I'll use it in Sublime. Okay. Close plus it. Right, so you have create table, okay, and then you basically specify your columns here. I mean, you guys already know about this, okay. ID is so what I'll be following here is what is my table name here? I'm sorry, what is my this thing? It is essentially insurance policy. Okay, so we'll call it insurance underscore policy. All right, cool. This, and in the ID we will use something called big. I think, what is a big integer for this? MySQL big integer. Okay, so this is a big int. Okay, right. So we'll use big int. Why am I using big int here and not just integer? Because so first let's decide why using integer for ID and not something else like string or something. Okay, reason being, this is a search operation on an integer is always faster than a search operation on a string. Okay, and the reason for this is I think integers by default take smaller space. It takes like some 4 KB or something, whereas string takes a bit more memory than this. Also, it is an incremental thing, so you don't really have to compare or anything. Integers are just very quick to retrieve. Okay, so MySQL, the default mechanism, unless you have a very specific requirement, the ID here is usually preferred as big integer. Okay, I mean just integer, a number type and not a string type. Then the question is, why big integer? Because let's say you open up a website which currently has let's say you have 100,000 customers in your database. Okay, that's a fairly simple number, right? But tomorrow when your application or when your number of customer or customer base grows exponentially, right? If it goes beyond let's say what you have thought about initially, the number would actually grow much bigger. And if you see here, if you look at this document here, right, the reason why we don't use integer is because you have a maximum limitation of this. Okay, maximum value signed. This is the maximum value you can have. This is the maximum number of customers your system can have. If you want more than that, then you cannot go with just integer. Okay, and you cannot modify this. Like you can modify this column, but then it'll break a lot of things here, which is why every time you design a database, you always think about the future. Like what is the expected customer base? Like you want to make your system or make your database future safe. Okay, so that's why we always go with the uppermost limit, which is big int. Okay, big int has a very huge number of max value, so you can easily accommodate that many customers. Okay, that's why we always choose big int. Okay, now we want this particular ID to automatically increase. Okay, like every time you insert a row, it will go from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 1, 2 to 3, like this. So there is this key called auto increment. Okay, so this auto increment will basically tell that increase it with the default value would be initially 0, and then every time you insert something, it will automatically increment. Okay, and you also want this ID to be a primary key. Why do you want it to be a primary key? Because you want indexing on this particular thing. Okay, you want quick retrieval. If somebody is looking for a particular like if you make your ID as a primary key, it would be easier to search, it would be faster to search. And yeah, basically that's what it is. I'll specify this as primary key. Okay, that's it. What else do we have here? Let us go back to our code. Items covered. This can be integer, or you can even keep it something as small as this, because tiny int has a value going from you can actually see here the reason why we choose integer versus string. String data type MySQL. One second. Okay, I'm not able to find this here. Anyways, okay. So I'll say integer. This is the items covered. So I'll say items covered. Okay, and this is the convention I follow. What is actually written as a camel case here is always written with underscore here. Okay, this can be just an int. And do we want a minimum value, right? We want this to have a value and not null. So I'll say not null. Okay, cool. Then the next thing is sum insured. So it will be sum insured. I think float has float data type. We can take a float data type here. Should we take a float or? Right, let's just take a double. Okay, again, the reason why I'm taking double and not float is because float has a limitation. I think you can see here, just like big integer, float has a limitation of this much. Okay, the maximum value is this much, whereas double has a bigger value. Okay, so we'll use that. Sum insured double. This also cannot be null. Okay, not null. Then the next thing is the insurance type. Okay, so it will be insurance type, and this will be basically an enum. Okay, so the way enums are written is you would specify them as enum, and then you would specify what type of data is accepted. So here we have mobile, vehicle, and life, right? So I'll say mobile. Okay, okay, yeah, this too cannot be null. So that's it. Let's go ahead and execute this statement in our debugger. Okay, query done. You can then check the number of tables you have by using show tables. Okay, it shows insurance policy. Okay, this has been created. Okay, if I run this command, you can see that I get this thing says it already exists. Okay, that's because I tried to execute everything there was. So this is one way of creating a table. The other way, where even if the table does exist, this query would not stop the execution of the next this thing is called if not exists, just like how we saw in the database. Okay, create table if not exists. This will execute smoothly. Oh, okay. What's the matter here? Okay, so that worked just fine. There's nothing wrong with this. Okay, cool. That's how you create a table. If you want to see the definition of a table, like what exactly the table looks like, okay, for that the command is show create table and then the table name. In our case, the table name is insurance policy. Okay, if we execute this particular command, you can see that it actually will give you the entire definition of it. You have begin, not null, auto increment, items covered in not null, sum insured, double not null, insurance type enum of this not null, primary key is ID, and engine is DB default. You can forget about these things for now. Okay. So that's if you want to see the definition of a table. Okay. All right. In fact, let me just go ahead and uncomment these. Okay. Let's take a quick 10 minutes break and I will come back. Okay. Okay. Here we created an insurance policy. This is how you create a table, basically. And we have it here. Then the next model in our database is we have the actual insurance. Okay. So here you can see you have ID, name, insurance status, created on, expired on, and policy ID. Okay. Now this policy ID is obviously going to refer to another table. This is going to be a foreign key. Okay. So let's see how we do that here. Okay. So for that, what I'll do is I'll say create table insurance. Okay. What do we want here? We want ID. Okay. This too will have big int of with auto increment. Okay. This will be the primary key of this. Okay. Then name. Okay. Name varchar would be the data type for that. Varchar is actually for string data types. And the limitation would be 255, which is the default byte. Okay, like the default number of characters you can have. Okay. So you can either give it as 255 or you can leave it as blank. It'll take the default one. Now, do we want this name to be null? No, we don't want this name to be null. Does it have a default value? No. So this is going to be not null. Okay, that's it. Then we have something called insurance status, which again is an enum. So here we have two status, active, inactive. So what I'll do here is I'll say status enum active inactive. Okay. And then we have created on, which is going to be of date type. So we'll say created on, which is going to be of date type. Now this this can be null at the time of insertion because this will already have a default value. So we'll say default. Okay. I think there's a function called now. Let me just quickly check current time in MySQL. There is a now function. Yes. Okay. Okay, now is basically the current function. I think there is a difference now versus current timestamp. Okay, cool. So basically current timestamp and now they're the same thing. Now makes more sense. So we'll go with now. Okay. Now there is one more thing that says expired on. So we'll say expired on. Okay, date. This can have a null value. Okay, so sorry, this can have a null value. So we'll just leave it as it is. Okay. And then we have policy ID. So this is the part where you have to basically specify that this is my foreign key. Let me just quickly do that. MySQL foreign key. Right, correct. So the way you specify this is acha, before I teach you the foreign key concept, let me see if I need on update on delete. Okay, okay, cool. All right, so we'll say policy ID. Policy ID. This will be a big int, not null. Okay. And then you'll say constraint. And then there will be a constraint name. So constraint name usually begins with FK for foreign key. Okay, this is the naming convention I follow. Constraint FK for foreign key. Policy. Okay, I mean, basically this would be FK and then whichever table I'm referring to. So it will be, actually I can just say policy ID. Okay, this would be the constraint name. Constraint is foreign key. Okay, which basically references to, let me just check, am I doing this right? Constraint symbol index name, column name, index name, column name. Achha, let me just take a quick example. What is it? Primary key, a constraint FK customer, foreign key customer ID, references column customer. Okay. So foreign key, this would be policy ID. CID, references, you okay, references, this is correct, right? Yeah, references, this would be actually pointing to insurance, policy. Okay, what is the ID field there? ID. Okay, on update, on delete, I'll leave them as blank for now. Let's just see if this actually executes. Okay. Copy, select this. We have a problem. We have a problem in, it says date default now, status inactive at line 3. So what is that issue at line 3? Varchar not null, active, inactive, default now, default. So I think this is how it will be. I don't think this is the. Let me just read this thing once again. Cannot create database. Database already exists. Oh shit. You have an error. SQL the manual that corresponds to the right version of not null. So it's coming from not null. Date now. Something is wrong here. Enum active, inactive, not null, expired on date, default. Default, maybe I'll have to give null. No, there is an issue with this only. 1 second. MySQL, what is that? Foreign key statement. Dev MySQL. What is that? How do you do this? Foreign key name, column. Okay, what is the example here? It says constraint FK category, foreign key name, this references categories, and this. Okay, this is what I have done here also. What's the matter here? Okay, default is null. Policy ID, this thing, constraint, acha. This is what's the issue is. I'm guessing this is what the issue is. This default value for created on. Invalid default value for created on. Okay, so now is not supported. Great. What is the current time? Now is not supported. Oh, okay. What is the problem? Okay, let me just check. In your current time, expired date default null, policy begin not null. Okay, constant. There is a constraint FK policy ID. That's what the example says, right? Constraint FK foreign key. Acha, this might be a reason. There's no space here. Unbelievable. This is just quickly check. What? Are you serious? Current time the near syntax, dude. What is wrong with this thing? Give me a second, guys. Create table insurance begin auto increment primary key varchar 2025 not null active inactive date default current time. It said that now is not a default, right? So now was not a default value. Acha, let's just see what the issue is. Okay, default value is not null. Okay, let's see what the issue is. It got created properly. Okay, which means that there was a problem with this now part. Okay, so what I'll do here is I'll say drop table insurance, run this, done. Table is dropped. Now this will throw me an issue here saying something is wrong. Okay, it says the default value. Okay, so what is the with MySQL? Now. Great. This is what I get always. Third column, acha, default is current time frame. So now is not what, acha, because now is a function. Okay, cool, understood. So this would be timestamp. All right, let me just see this. Still a problem. Current timestamp creation. Acha, date time. Acha, if I give date, then obviously current time should be the value, right? A lot of things here. Okay. Okay, cool. Jesus to date time. Yep. Date time, because we want to capture the date this thing as well. Okay. This should execute here. Second, no. Current timestamp. Yep. Okay, cool. All right, that took fair amount of time. So let's take a look at this. What we have done here. Okay, so we're creating an insurance table. Everything looks fine here. Okay, up until this point. Okay, so created on is a date time, and basically, I think the default value for date here would be default value for MySQL date. This is for date time. Acha, this is the current date is current timestamp. Okay, never mind. So basically, this is what it's doing in insurance. We have an ID as the primary key, and then we have the name as the varchar 255, not null. Status is active and inactive. Everything was fine up until this point. Okay, I used a date time here, but then I was not able to set the default value. And I was thinking that now is basically something which should set the default value. But when you're setting this, so now is basically a function. Okay, because it proceeds with this bracket. So now cannot be a replacement of a value here. So what happens here when you create this thing, right? This current timestamp or current time, it is basically a replacement of the existing timestamp value. Now is a function call, which is why now was not working. So created on date time, default is this, and expired on date time, default is null. Okay. Policy ID is begint of, not null. Then what I'm doing here is I'm specifying the constraint that this policy ID is a foreign key. Here I've specified this as constraint foreign key. This is the foreign key name, so that if there is a violation of the foreign key, it will throw me the error with this particular key name. So I will know exactly which table it happened in. Okay. And then you have foreign key. This is where you specify the column where basically the column in your table and the references to the foreign table and the foreign column. Okay. This is how you specify the foreign key on a table. And the relationship, as you can see, it is by default insurance policy and insurance. So this is so when it comes to relationship, right, there is something called on update and on delete. We'll not look at this now. In the next session, we'll take a look at the on update and on delete. But yeah, this is basically what it is. So if you see here, there is a dependency of insurance policy on insurance. Okay. So let me try inserting values for insurance.
Hello.
Yes.
Sir, line number 14, sir. What is that, sir?
Expired on is like when your policy expired. It's just an additional column. If you decide, if you as an insurance company decide to completely deprecate a product, like let's say you want to completely remove mobile insurance policy.
And
So
sir, line number 13, ये value sir ये default date time only से भी ये date time किस फॉर्मेट में सर ये सर
क्या डेट टाइम क्या किस फॉर्मेट?
ये सर करंट जो टाइम स्टैम्प है ये सर किस फॉर्मेट में ये करेगा सर रिटर्न?
ये एक्चुअली ऐसे फॉर्म में करेगा. आई थिंक द डिफॉल्ट इज YYY MM DD, फिर बीच में T रहेगा एंड देन HH MM SS ऐसा कुछ एक रहेगा. ठीक है. That's how it is, I guess. Let me just check. Because now and current timestamp they do the same thing. So if I just execute now, what does it do? Does it do anything? Acha, no. Let me just check the current timestamp. Temp in MySQL format. So it is YYY MMM DDD. There is no T in between. Space HH MM SS. This is the format of the time. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Cool. Yeah. There could be a question that what if instead of date time I just wanted date? Okay, you could do something like this. Created on date. Okay, default date, and here you will basically pass the current timestamp. Okay, it's just a very MySQL specific thing. It will take the current timestamp and it will by default convert that into a date. Okay, but usually I've seen people going with date time. Okay. But when you're writing, when you're working on a SpringBoot project, you most probably don't have to write these things, SQL scripts, but it's good to know for now because there are annotations that will take care of these things for you. Okay, cool. This is the create table, this thing, statement for creating two tables. I'll come back to my this thing here. I'll just add if not exists. Okay. Now let me go ahead and try inserting values. So first thing is I'll insert into this insurance table. Okay, so I'll say insert into insurance. Okay, value. If you're inserting a single value, ID, we don't have to provide anything. It'll by default take 0. So ID I'll skip. I'll specify the column names. Name would be the column. Okay. Status would be the column that I'll be inserting the value of. Created on. As I created on, I can leave it as blank. Policy ID. Okay, so these are the three things. What am I doing here? I'm leaving out the ID because that will be automatically generated. Name I'm specifying. Status I'm specifying. Created on already has a default timestamp. So if I don't provide a value for it, this will do. Expired on, it can remain null. Policy ID is something that I'm going to provide. Okay. And because this is insert into, sorry, not value, insert into, this is the table name. And after that, you specify for which columns you're trying to insert the values of. I'm trying to insert the values for the columns name, status, and policy ID. Then you will say value. Okay, you would go ahead and put your value here. So I'll say mobile 2. Okay, and then you'll say status is, sorry, status would be active. Policy ID would be, let's say 1. Okay. If you wanted to insert, like if you wanted to do bulk operation, you would basically change this from values to value to values, and you would just add one more set of values, okay, with separated by a comma. Okay, so like here I'll just say prime mobile 3, active, and 1. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. All right, let's execute this. This will be an error, and the error is Geekster table Geekster insurance does not exist. So basically it was not able to create the insurance part. Acha, theek hai. Let's get rid of this command here. Acha, let me just show all the tables that I have here. At this point, insurance policy is the only table that I have. So we'll do this. That ran properly, and I'll just say show create table insurance. Okay, and then I'll just basically try to insert a value. You'll see that this command won't execute. This command wouldn't execute because it says cannot add or update a child row, foreign key constraint fails. Okay, it basically says that I'm failing at this foreign key constraint FK policy ID. The reason for this is, okay, wait. The reason for this is that you do not have any value in insurance policy yet. And you're basically saying that I have a dependency on insurance policy, find me, insert the value and link this to the policy, insurance policy row number 1. Okay, but there is no ID with row number 1. Okay, so what I'll have to do is I'll have to create this first. So I'll say insert into insurance policy. What are the this thing I want items covered, sum insured, and insurance type. Okay, so items covered I'll say 2. Okay, sum insurance is, let's say 2000.00. Okay, and then I want the status this thing for mobile. Okay, so I'll say mobile. All right, done. If I run this now, just this part. Okay, we still have a this is I have to specify the columns first. What are the columns I'm specifying? First thing is the items covered. So items covered. Then the next thing is sum insured. Insured. Then the next thing is insurance type. Insurance type. These are the 3 things for which I'm trying to insert, and value. Okay, value would be items covered 2, 20000, and this is okay. Yeah, cool. So if I execute this, okay, let's say I want to retrieve it. I want to see what got placed here. So that the command for that is select star from insurance policy. Okay. And you can see that the ID is 1, 2, 2000 and mobile. Okay. So what I can do now is I can actually link it to this. So I'll say mobile 2 and active in 1. If I run this thing now, it will properly execute. And yeah, it didn't give any error. So now if I just say select star from insurance, if I just execute this statement, I will get this particular value. Okay, you can see this is how it is. This is a simple insertion and simple retrieval. This is how you specify a foreign key. Now, the thing is, if you look at this thing, okay, you have a name here and then you have a policy ID here, right? What if the same insertion happens again? Somebody can insert the same value, right? I can go ahead and do the same insertion twice. Let me change this to this. And let me go ahead and actually insert it twice. I'll close this. Okay. I'll actually execute all of these statements. If you see all of these statements, there are duplicate IDs 2, 3, 4, 5, policy ID 1, but the information here is duplicate. Okay, so basically we need to find a way using which we can prevent duplicate entry. Okay, so to do that, we have to basically make certain keys unique so that if somebody decides to insert the same value again, it will throw an error if the value or if the values already exist in the database. Okay, so for that, what I'll do here is I'll basically modify my table here, but I'm not showing you the modification command. I'm just showing you how you can specify the unique key at the time of creating the table itself. Okay, like how you have specified the constraint FK policy here, you'll add one more constraint here. Okay, you'll add constraint. Okay, this will be UK for unique key, and this is basically policy name ID. Okay, so the name and the policy ID should be unique. So if you have a mobile insurance 2 which links to policy ID 1, you cannot insert another mobile 2 with policy ID 1. Okay, so this is what we'll do here. It will be constraint UK this. Okay, and then unique key, it will be a combination of the columns that you have here. Okay, it will be just unique. I'm not really sure. I think it's unique key or just unique. Unique. Java dpoint is the worst, but it's fine. There is this. You basically specify unique, correct. So there is no key here. It's basically unique. Okay. So unique, and then you have to give the column names here. Column names here are name and policy ID. Okay, that's it. So I have to drop that table first. I'll go ahead and I'll drop this table. I'll execute just this part. So I selected this and I executed this. It dropped the table. Okay. How do I verify this? If I show this, it shows. Oh, okay. Did it not drop the table? Insurance policy. So this is a show create table. This is all show create table. How do I drop? Okay. I haven't written the drop command. So I'll just say drop table insurance. Okay, drop table insurance will drop the table altogether. To verify this thing, we can just run this command. you'll get that you just have insurance policy, which is fine. Okay. Now, what I'll do is I'll modify this thing. So, okay, I've added this. This is not a modification per se. I'm just dropping and deleting it altogether. So I'll select this. First, I'll create the insurance table, and then I'll see the definition of it. Okay. So you can see here, the first thing actually created the table, and the second thing is going to show the table definition here. Okay. Oh my God, what is this? Let's copy this, paste it here, and you'll see that it's pretty much the exact same thing. Okay, create table insurance ID, big null, big int, not null, all these things are fine. Here in the UK, unique key, it's UK policy name ID, name and policy. Okay, so now if I want to insert these, now if I want to execute just this command, right, you will see that there's a error that's coming here. Okay, duplicate entry for this thing, mobile insurance 2 1. Does that mean none of them got executed? Let's see. Yeah, you can see that actually none of them, no value got executed, because it complained that there was all. So it tried to insert this one, it inserted it successfully, then it tried to insert this one as well. Remember how I told you that database operations are basically in SQL, the database operations are highly consistent. So if one step fails, everything else will also fail. Okay, so even though this step succeeded, because the consistency is always guaranteed, because the state before this operation was that your table had no value. If this step was successful, then you would have got a table with 2 entries into it. But because it failed, and it failed exactly at this point, okay, because it failed, whatever entry was made before that was actually rolled back. So you got the state which was there before this. Okay, this is a very like live example of how consistent MySQL is. If you run this thing now, I mean, you can just check this again. Right now, if I run this, there is no entry in my table, right? And then I go ahead and basically do this, and I get this thing, duplicate entry for this thing. Okay, and this is happening because I'm already inserting this thing. If I now execute just this command, you can see that it actually went ahead and it didn't complain, nothing broke here. And then when you execute this, you already have a value here. Okay, so even if you have, let's say, 5 such values that you're trying to insert, and let's say all the 4 values have inserted into the table, but the last one caused a problem, all 4 of those insertions are going to revert back, and then you'll get the previous state back. Okay, this is that. This is a command to basically drop a table. What if you want to keep the table definition but just want to empty the table, like you just want all the values from the table to disappear? The command for that would be truncate, I think truncate, and then the table name. Okay, if you just do this truncate, you run this thing, you can see that this succeeded. Then you try to see the number of tables you have here. If you just execute the show table command, show table command shows you that you have insurance and insurance policy. But if you decide to see all the values from insurance, you will see that the table has none. Okay, this is what happens when you truncate a table. You just wipe the values, but you keep the table definition there. And because the table definition exists, if you run this command, it will show you the table definition. However, if you do a drop on the table, okay, and then you decide to see all the tables here, you will see that only insurance policy exists. This is the difference between truncate and drop table. Okay, so I'll go ahead and I'll create this once again. Okay, so we learned how to create a table, with primary key, foreign key, unique key, how to insert table. We have also seen how to read from a table. So here you say select star from insurance. Star basically means all the columns. If you want just specific columns to execute, like, okay, If you just want some specific columns to, okay, if you just want some specific columns to be seen, you just have to specify the columns. You guys already know this. Okay, so here I executed all of them. So I'm just going to say this thing. Okay, it has all of these things. Let's say I just want to fetch the name and the status. So I'll just say select I.name, comma I.status from insurance as I, where, insurance as I, okay. This as basically stands for alias, okay. You can see, you just see mobile and status here. As stands for alias. So if you have a very big table name, you can alias it to something small, like with the as keyword, and then you can just pick the values or pick the column names for that table using the dot annotation, okay. That is all for today. In the next one, we'll perform the basic CRUD operations and also the group by concatenate. Basically, whatever is required for the Spring project that we're going to do, only those functions we would execute. If you don't know much about MySQL, I suggest you go ahead and read about at least the basic CRUD operations. Okay. Do you have any questions? If not, we can end the session today. Thank you. Good night.